Okay, we've got a serious crisis on our hands here, and I want to lay out two different ways to do it. The first, well, let me lay out the crises first. Obviously, there are multiple. I mean, there's thousands, hundreds, well, probably thousands of large and small issues that are at stake. From the future of Social Security all the way down to, whether we're going to protect our waterways. Under this new administration, and with Republican control of the House of Representatives, and the Senate. But there is a larger issue, and that is that 33 state legislatures are now controlled by Republicans. It only takes 34 states, according to the Constitution, to call for a constitutional convention and literally rewrite the Constitution. The Republicans are one state away from what I believe is the final goal of the petro-billionaires and, well, broadly, the billionaire class and the corporate class of rewriting our Constitution. You will recall that David Koch, back in 1980, when he ran for vice president on the Libertarian platform, that party platform, which you can easily Google, you might want to plug Bernie Sanders' name into the Google because he's reprinted it over at his website at sanders.senate.gov. Anyhow, the platform calls for the abolition of Medicare and Medicaid, the repeal of federal campaign finance laws. I'm reading verbatim from the Libertarian Party platform that David Koch ran for president on. Keep in mind, the Republicans would not control today the House, the Senate, the White House, in my humble opinion, without David and Charles Koch and without all the money and all the groundwork over decades that they have spent preparing for this. Deregulation of the medical insurance industry, repeal of the fraudulent and oppressive Social Security system, abolition of the governmental postal service. We oppose all personal and corporate income taxation. There goes the 13th Amendment, including capital gains taxes. We support the eventual repeal of all taxation. All criminal and civil sanctions against tax evasion should be terminated immediately. End the minimum wage. Complete separation of education and state. Government schools lead to the indoctrination of children. Government ownership, operation, regulation, and subsidy of schools and colleges should be ended. The abolition of the Environmental Protection Agency, the abolition of the Department of Energy, the abolition of the Department of Transportation, privatization of public roads and our national highway system, end the FDA, the FAA. We oppose all government welfare relief projects, aid to poor programs, privatization of inland waterways, repeal of OSHA, abolition of Consumer Product Safety Commission, repeal of all state usury laws. That's laws that say that your bank and your insurance company can't charge you too much interest, can't exploit you. That's what David Koch ran for vice president in 1980. And I would say everything I've seen up to this point indicates that, he and his brother still believe in this. The original Charles Koch Foundation is now called the Cato Institute, which continues to advocate, as far as I know, virtually all of these positions. So, we are one state away from the Constitution being rewritten. If the Constitution is rewritten, it's going to be rewritten by Republicans who are beholden to these petro-billionaires. And this is the agenda. So how do we stop that? Back in 2009, 10, 11, back in the day, when the Tea Party was in the process of taking over government, taking over the Republican Party anyway, because that's how we got here. Right? How do you take over your state Republican Party or that was what the Tea Party was concerned about. How do you now take over your state Democratic Party and make it more progressive and make it more active and make it more successful? How do you do that? There was a group called the Concord Project. ConcordProject.org is their website. They put together a series of YouTube videos that and that were distributed also, I believe, on CDs to conservative Tea Party activists around the country, telling people exactly, here's how you take it over. And by the way, they did this. It was successful, and that's why we're where we are right now. I want to share this with you. I went through this 4 years ago on this program at great length, but a lot of you weren't here 4 years ago. I want to reprise this. So we've got some of those videos. I'm going to share them with you. This is just, pieces of them. This is from one of the Concord Project's videos explaining where is the real power in government. This is video 2, part 1, Troy. Here it is.
What's the most powerful political office in the world? It is not the President of the United States. It's precinct committeemen. Why? There's 3 main reasons. First, because precinct committeemen and only precinct committeemen get to elect the leaders of the political parties. If you want to elect the leadership of one of the 2 major political parties in this country, then you have to become a precinct committeeman. What's the most powerful political office in the world?
That was the end of that one. Okay. All right, great. Here's another part of that video. This is part 2, Troy.
Second, precinct committeemen and only precinct committeemen can vote in internal party elections to endorse candidates in the all-important, traditionally very low turnout primary elections. If a candidate wants to win the general election, he first has to get onto the general election ballot. To get on the general election ballot, he has to win the primary election. And the best way to win the primary election is to get the endorsement of as many party committees as possible. Precinct committeemen are organized into committees. For example, every county has a party committee. Every state legislative district has a committee. Legislative districts elect the people's representatives to the state legislature. Second, precinct committeemen.
True of both parties, by the way. And here is part 3 of that. This is
now the third reason you want to become a precinct committeeman is because in some states, when a vacancy occurs in a state legislator office, precinct committeemen and only precinct committeemen, not registered voters, get to nominate 3 nominees to fill the vacancy. The County Board of Supervisors then select the replacement. If, under a system like this, a majority of the precinct committeemen are conservatives, then all 3 nominees will be conservatives and the eventually selected replacement will be a conservative. That's real political power.
You get that? I mean, that is real political power. If in your congressional district, the majority of the precinct committee persons, the precinct committee chairman or whatever they call them, there's got to be a gender neutral term, but maybe not. It probably is in the Democratic Party. But if the majority of the precinct committee people, and maybe even a 51% majority, are progressives, then they can say, okay, every single person, we'll have a primary with as many candidates as you want, 2, 3, 5, 10, no problem, as long as they're all progressives. We will only vote for progressives for primaries. Because the precinct committee people, the party, determines who gets to compete the primary. That way, no matter who wins the primary, you've got a progressive going into the general election. You understand this? This is very straightforward stuff. Back to Concord Project videos. This is this is video 1, part 1. Here's a little more riff on this.
How does one become a precinct committeeman? Bottom line, every state has different rules and procedures for becoming a precinct committeeman with full voting rights within the parties. And each party within each state may have different rules. In Arizona, for example, you must be elected to the office of precinct committeeman. But you don't have to get more than 10 signatures of registered voters from your party or from independents to get your name on the primary ballot. Precinct committeemen in Arizona are not required to pay dues. Ohio's system is similar to Arizona's. Other states require dues and require precinct committeemen attend meetings and sign pledges to support the party's candidates.
Keep in mind, he's talking about the Republican Party. Here's another clip from that.
So how do you find out how it works in your state? The best way is to contact your state or county political party organization and find out where your local party committee meets. Get on the internet and find it. Use the phone book. Call information. Then contact your party organization and find out when and where they meet. Then go to the meeting and ask how one becomes a voting member of the party.
And all across America, whether they were living in a trailer park or a mansion, conservative Republicans, Fox News watchers, people who, Rush Limbaugh listeners who were exposed to that video or videos similar to it or that message said, okay, cool, I'll do that. And the Republicans, now, and from the ground up, literally from the precincts, the congressional precincts, or the precincts within the congressional districts, from the precincts to the congressional districts to the states, the Tea Party, the conservatives, they now call themselves the Freedom Caucus, but it's all still, this thing that's funded by the petrobillionaires. They have taken over 33 state legislatures, both the House and the Senate in 33 states. They need one more state to call for a constitutional convention and completely rewrite our Constitution and basically end the American experiment, in my opinion. Now, they would say that they're taking us back to the original values. I mean, that's a whole nother debate. But we've got to get active. That's step one. Step two, I'm going to talk about after the break, which is how do you influence your existing members of Congress? Stick around. We'll be back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
So call your local Democratic Party and say, I'd like to participate. I might even want to be a precinct committee person. How do I do it? They'll tell you.